Jesse Newell, the Kansas City Star, covers Kansas, and what a weekend it was for Kansas football. Basketball has started, and KU and Bill Self are really good, as you can imagine, but the football team gets the highlights and the spotlight because of what happened in Austin, and Jesse joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. So tell me the story about the kid that caught the two-point conversion. He had not played an offensive snap entering that game. Is that right, Jesse?
Yeah, that's correct. Jared Casey from, fittingly enough, Plainville, Kansas, about 2000 in northwest Kansas, and preferred to walk on, a redshirt freshman, but KU started to have some injuries, and he played on special teams. He was the signal caller for the personal protector unit, and also did some kickoff return stuff, but had not played an offensive snap in his KU career until that game against Texas. KU had another walk-on fullback go down with an ending injury last week, and then Mason Fairchild, the tight end they had, went down with an injury against Texas. So, yeah, they called the biggest play of the season, the biggest play, in about a decade for Kansas football, and in pops Jared Casey from Plainville, Kansas, and sure enough, he's waving his arms to the back of the end zone when the play breaks down, and Jalen Daniels finds him. He catches the pass, and what an amazing story. I talked to his parents yesterday, and they drove down there. They go to all his games, drove along, make it, and their minivan that has 264,000 miles. So a pretty cool story from Lawrence, and he's the hero against the Longhorns this weekend.
Jesse, how big was that win for Lance Leipold in the future?
Well, I think it's important just because it gives him some cred, like some buy-in. I mean, you can talk about, hey, things are going to get better, things will turn, things, if you keep working at this, you're going to see results, but it's hard to preach that when you're getting beat down every week by other Big 12 opponents who aren't having those same results against other teams. So, especially in today's college football, it could be big because not only you're recruiting other players, but you're recruiting your own players. I mean, there's guys on Kansas roster right now that I'm sure will have options with other schools in the offseason if they want to immediately transfer and go away. I'm sure that SEC schools or Big Ten schools will say, hey, look, you played at Kansas and wasn't very successful. Come to this school. We win some games here. And so for Lance Leipold to have that happen in this game, for the program to see the results, what can happen if you take your coaching, listen to the next man up mentality like Jared Casey did. I think that's important for them because now they can put that on every media guide, on every recruiting mail out that, hey, this thing is already starting to get built at Kansas, and this is the way. This is the place you want to be if you want to turn things around in a hurry and potentially play in a hurry as well.
Jalen Daniels playing quarterback on Saturday night, 200-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, also had a rushing score as well and nearly 50 yards on the ground. I know he's played a little bit, but they've had some injuries. So Jalen Daniels, I mean, what are the thoughts on him moving forward and what he was able to do in Austin on Saturday against Texas?
Yeah, it's a crazy scenario. He played a bunch of games last year for Kansas. First half of the season, he was only 17 years old when he did it, so super inexperienced then. Has a rocket for an arm, but just still learning the system. I mean, any of us learning anything at 17 years old. I mean, in fact, that's one year after you learn how to drive a car. Now you're driving a Big 12 offense against defensive linemen, against Oklahoma, Texas, that sort of thing. But the plan was to redshirt him this year, so it's kind of fascinating. That was his 4th game, so he's still eligible for a redshirt. But in the K-State game, both Jason Dean and Miles Kendrick, the first and second string guys for Kansas, both went down. So they threw Jalen Daniels in there, just you go to the next guy, but. What do you do if you're Kansas now? I mean, you have all this momentum built up. You have this huge win against Texas. You got 2 games left. Do you throw Jalen Daniels out there and burn the redshirt year now just for these 2 games when you're going to be huge underdogs in both? Or, do you just keep the momentum and keep them out there and say, hey, roll with it, see if you can get another victory? And if things go as you hope, Jalen Daniels can still be your quarterback for the next 2 or 3 years. And then after that, you hope you've recruited somebody else in there. So that'll be something to track here. But he was fantastic. I was looking at the Pro Football Focus grades. It was the highest ranking for a quarterback for Kansas in the Pro Football Focus era. So nobody's ever rated that high in a single game than Jalen Daniels did against Texas. So, yeah, a spectacular performance from him and a big reason why Kansas won on Saturday.
Jesse, there was a time, and, of course, they were up 21. They were up 14. You could just see it just kind of melting away, and you just kind of could feel it. And the fact
the fans left at the end of the game after the interception. I thought it was over. Yeah.
There was a minute 9, and it looked like I'm not saying he was wrong because in the end, but do you feel like they got a little bit conservative on that last drive following the interception, not to just run the ball 3 times up the middle?
Yeah, it's funny you guys say that because I actually rushed down to the field after the interception because I wanted to get on the field for any video and photos and stuff like that. And obviously, it was worth it to be down there because it was a crazy moment for KU football. But I saw exactly what you were saying. Like, the people had left, and then they started they heard cheering. And so a bunch of people were huddled around the TVs in the concourse. And then I had some trouble getting back in the stadium because there were so many fans rushing back into the stadium with me. Like, it was like the game was starting, not like the game was ending. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was crazy. But yeah, I mean, there were definitely some questionable decisions late. I think going for it on the 4th and 1 in their own territory was right, but they just had a pretty conservative play call there, so that could have been questioned. And then, after the interception, it seemed like Kansas had it sealed. The other thing that killed them was just really, really, really poor execution on the punt. To have a short punt, middle of the field to one of the most dangerous kicker or punt returners of the nation. That was not good for Kansas either. So a lot of things that could have been questioned, but as we know, to the victors go the spoils. And so, Lance Leipold's going to get all the credit in the world this week for beating Texas as he should, and those things didn't end up biting the Jayhawks.
Jesse, and for people who don't know, if you're DKR, from the press box down to the field there's not like an elevator straight down. It's weird kind of where you have to go. Like, yeah, you have to, if you had to change your plan, it's not easy to redo it.
Yeah, and I'm there for one game every 2 years. So I was going upstairs, downstairs, around stairs to level 1 over section 12. So yeah, if you know the inner workings of that, you know exactly how lost I was trying to get down the field, thinking I was going to miss what was a short one for Kansas, and then that's what happened. Okay, you ran it 3 times up the middle, punted, and then Texas scored on that game time drive. So you're right, it was kind of an adventure to get down there, but made more of an adventure because those Texas fans were trying to get back into their seats.
Jesse, what has Lance Leipold been able to do in terms of just, I know the term culture is thrown around a lot, but clearly that was a culture type of win, or a culture building win on Saturday. Why has he been able to do it differently than Les Miles or anybody who has been at Kansas football as of late? What is it about him that obviously I think some other schools are going to definitely take note of the fight Kansas showed on Saturday, but how has he been able to change the mindset, so to speak, and not have everybody think like, this is going to be the same old that it has been over the last few years?
Yeah. So when things go well for Kansas early in games, he has those guys that are playing hard. They absolutely do. And he's hiring against Oklahoma too. When Kansas got a little belief in itself, they really have to battle the psyche of this program. I wrote about this, but KU before Saturday had lost 56 straight road conference games. Guys, that was the longest streak ever in Division I history. The second longest streak is 44 by a college called Sewanee back from 1931 to 1939. So KU by a dozen games had this streak and will have this streak for the rest of eternity. So that's the sort of losing that gets ingrained in you. And when something goes bad, you start to think, oh my gosh, it's not going to get better. And so I think he's kept them believing. And I will say this about it as well. I mean, let's be still honest about Kansas's program here. They still were 31-point underdogs against a Texas team that lost 4 straight games. So they had some really good things happen. They had some things go their way. The program is not fixed by any measure, but they're taking the steps necessary to get to there. And for so long, Kansas, it seemed like they were trying to hire a flash. They were trying to hire a name. They were trying to cut corners when it came to hiring a football coach. And Lance Leipold is just not that. I think it was sort of refreshing when he was brought in because he's not the guy that's going to tell you about the pixie dust that he has. This match is going to turn you into a bowl team. He's not the guy that is going to have this just amazing, charismatic attitude where you say, oh my gosh, this is the guy that's won every press conference. I mean, Kansas needs something a little bit different because that's not as what has won for them in the past. And so I think that, step by step, he has a method, and I think most importantly, he sticks to it. Even after these big blowout losses, he said, hey, I've been at Buffalo, I've known how to turn these things around, and he's going to stick to the plan because he's seen it work in the past, and he's comfortable off in his own skin, that he's not going to change course and panic, maybe like some other KU coaches have done. So I've been really impressed by that. And again, we'll see where it goes from here. KU still has so much ground to make up to be close to the rest of the Big 12. But for a 9-0 show and everything went right for them, and that's how they got that upset victory.
We will have time later on. We'll worry about KU basketball. We know how loaded they are and what the Big 12 might be, once again, a sledgehammer. Jesse, thank you for your time. What a moment for KU and the Jayhawks and football program. Thank Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star with us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Jared Casey will go down in history for a long, long time from Plainville, Kansas. Caught the 2-point conversion. Had not played a snap on offense until tonight because of an injury.
Yeah, and that was a really cool video that was put out there, I guess, after the game of his parents' point of view on the complete opposite side of the stadium. And, his dad going, is that Jared? And then, seeing him pop up after the scrum at the end and seeing his jersey number and just the pure, genuine, real joy in their voices was, man, that made me feel good. It's just pure positive emotions for their son, and that was awesome. And yeah, that was quite the scene. I mean, I was one of those that I saw Kansas get up big, and I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get my hopes up here and think that they're actually going to be able to pull this off. I've seen this before, and Texas is going to come roaring back, and certainly they did, and I thought, okay, well that's it then. And to Kansas's credit, man, they still kept fighting and were able to make a couple plays there at the end and get that win. And that was amazing. I know it was brutal loss for Texas. And we have to talk about the ramifications on their side, because now there's a lot of questions about Steve Sarkisian suddenly and all that. But what a win. What a win for the Jayhawks and Lance Leipold.
It has been a long, long weekend, including into the day with Steve Sarkisian and UT with a 4-6 record. They got to win one of the last two to make it to